your online community for positive change. Seventh Wave Network.
Good day, and welcome to the Simone Zone 1 with your host, Jon C. Mejia. Did you know the power of positive change is within your own imagination? Join us for the next hour as we explore the power of your creativity, inspiration, and imagination. Now, here's John.
Welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Jon Mejia, and on today's program, I am honored to interview adventurer and philosopher John Mace and groundbreaking research into the working of the mind, and he is the creator of the highly regarded Mace Method. Used by trained practitioners around the world, the Mace Method is a powerful tool for emotional healing that is having remarkable effects on people's lives. In a total departure from conventional counseling, it does not involve any self-disclosure and can be done over the telephone, as John did with me. In his compelling new book, John Mace describes the revolutionary concept of Causism and its practical component, the Mace Method, and explains how the unknowingly created negative identities that influence our lives and prevent us from attaining our goals can be located and discreated. Based on years of research and study, this simple but extraordinarily effective therapy will allow you to regain control of your life and find the real you. Not only can it put you on the path to emotional and psychological health and eliminate the stress that underlies many physical health problems, it can also lead to a marked improvement in your general health, well-being, and confidence. John's mission statement, to assist people to be in control of their lives and live their own dreams, is not merely a platitude, but as you'll soon hear, the very operating principle of this extraordinary man's life. I highly recommend that you think of any issues that may be bothering you as you listen to today's show. So now listen and learn firsthand from the master himself, John Mace, as he demonstrates the Mace Method in a phone session with me.
My work is entirely left field, and it's based upon a very fundamental and major discovery which challenges the very basis of psychology and psychiatry.
Please tell me more.
It concerns the mind. The mind is not what people think it is. The mind only has one function and one ability, and that is to create a mental picture of whatever your attention is on. The mind has no ability to think, rationalize, make decisions, remembering things, store knowledge. That's you. You do all those things, not your mind. I can demonstrate that to you very, very simply if you care to close your eyes.
Okay, my eyes are closed.
Okay. Apple. What color apple are you now looking at?
Well, I saw a red one first and then a yellow one.
Okay, fine. House. What's it made of?
This one is made out of wood.
Good. Motor car. What color is it?
It's a gray color.
Okay, open your eyes, please.
Okay.
3 times I put your mind on 3 disparate objects, and each time your mind creates a picture, and that is all your mind does. But although that's all the mind does is create pictures, the mind does have an incredible ability. It has the ability to create a mental picture to represent a concept that you understand. If you understand the concept, your mind will create a picture to represent it. But I've just said to you, the mind cannot think, rationalize, or reason. And the picture you get to represent these concepts will be anything from a donut to a dinosaur, an ice cream to an oak tree, totally devoid of rationality. I can demonstrate that to you also, if you care to close your eyes.
Okay, my eyes are closed again.
Good. Anger is a concept. Anger. Just anger. What picture has popped up now? Anger.
An event that happened yesterday on a lake.
Okay, fine. There must have been some anger in that event.
Yes, there was.
Good. Okay. Now think of something more positive. Love. L-O-V-E. Love. Just think what the word love means and you get another picture. What do you got this time?
I see a face of my grandmother.
Okay, you can open your eyes. Now, you must love your grandmother very much, and that's why you got a picture of her.
That's true.
Now, this is what I use in this work of mine. There are other aspects to it. The thing is this, what my research has uncovered is this. The controlling influence in our life, which controls what we say, what we think, what we do, and our attitude, are feelings. Our feelings control our life. And unwanted feelings come from an element which I just discovered. You see, it's generally accepted we're composed of three elements: mind, body, and spirit. Mm-hmm. Now that is fine, except it's incomplete. And what my research has discovered, there's a fourth element, which I call an identity. So it is now mind, body, spirit, and identity. Now these identities are purely simply clusters of energy in your universe. And because of energy, you cannot see them. Energy is invisible. You only know it exists by the effects it creates. You cannot see these identities, which is why they've never ever been discovered before. And yet we've always had them, and we always will have them. Life revolves around identities.
Now, John, a question for you. I understand the identity concept. Is identity where we get these emotions?
Yes. You see, the identities fall into two categories. Knowingly created identities, which are pro-survival, and you automatically create them to survive in life. But the ones that we are interested in this work of mine are what I call a negative identity. It's negatively charged, and anything, I'll talk about you now, anything in your own personality that you do not like comes from a negatively charged identity which you unknowingly created. And it's buried in your psyche, controlling you. You think it's you, but it's not.
I just want to say there are other schools that have similar ideas, and they postulate that the reason we have these negative identities, as you call them, is that for a survival mechanism that perhaps is now outdated, outmoded, and unnecessary.
Well, it isn't so much that. You see, these negative identities are created during a moment of upset. Now, an upset is defined in my work, which I call Causism, as anything which you've experienced which you have not experienced by choice. And who hasn't had an upset? In these upsets, the unwanted feeling, and by definition, if there's an upset, there's an unwanted feeling. The unwanted feeling, you resist it. You don't like it. But what you resist persists. And it sits there, buried in your psyche. You don't know it's there. You think it's you. It's not. And that's where they come from.
Do they serve any purpose, these unwanted feelings?
The negative identities, no. You see, the positive identities are what you use to operate in life to aid your survival. The negative identities are unknowingly curated, and they are a knee-jerk reaction to something that's happened. And they're always negative. They're always non-survival. Always.
They serve no purpose. They basically are ideal to eliminate, and that's what your work does. Precisely.
Every negative identity impedes your survival and your happiness. And when you get rid of them, the real you surfaces. Because the real you is perfect. You are naturally enthusiastic, loving, optimistic, honest. That's the real you. And anything which does not allow you to live into those high ascetic states comes from a negative identity which you unknowingly created.
Now, we all want to have peak experiences, the qualities that you just mentioned. So, how did you come about this discovery?
Well, I'll give you my background. I was a master mariner.
Fascinating.
And I'm now 81 years of age. In 1959, I experienced what you call a peak experience, which totally changed my life. Totally changed my life. And I have spent the last 49 years researching in this area. And it's only in the last couple of weeks I've actually reached, what you can say, hit rock bottom.
What do you mean by that?
That there's no further research necessary to make people happy and live the life they want to live.
Ah, well, that sounds more like the mountaintop than rock bottom, but okay, I understand.
But rock bottom is the by that I mean there's nowhere else to go. You don't have to go any deeper. It's there it is, that's it.
Fantastic. Well, then we've caught you at the ideal moment in your research.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you've got to understand that I have been, this has been quite a process of development. I mean, I've been working in this area for many years, and I've trained many, many people. But it's a case of a process of, how could I put, well, not so much elimination, but gradual development. And it was only in the last couple of weeks I realised the importance of our feelings. Our feelings dictate our life. And negative feelings come from negative identities.
John comes to our program at a particularly important juncture of his life's work of almost 50 years. He states that only in the last few weeks has he come upon the mother lode of his research, the key insight that our feelings dictate our lives and that negative feelings are the basis of negative identities. So now, allow yourself to imagine that he is right. Imagine that you're able to find every single negative identity in your life and that you are able to root them out and eliminate them completely. What would that mean to you? What would your life look like if you did not have to drag around a ball and chain of negative energy? For most people, this sounds too good to be true. But John Mace puts a simple challenge before each one of us. Try it. As you can hear from our discussion, John's work is not esoteric in the least. He speaks in plain words that anyone can understand and follow. His claim that we can be liberated from our chains at the speed not of light, but of thought, sounds like the stuff of science fiction. But for the problems we face today, we need solutions that are extraordinary. Einstein said that in order to overcome our problems, we need a completely different consciousness than what we used to get there in the first place. Stay tuned to the next segment as John Mace demonstrates his method. John's unique work in this field over the last 50 years has resulted in his creating a new vocabulary to explain his concepts and findings, such as the identity, the fourth dimension, which he calls the missing link, Causism, the human energy unit, and explanations of universes and the energy universe. A fundamental truth uncovered by the research is that everything that a person experiences is their own creation, and it follows that if they created it, then they can also discreate it. As John put it, emotions and attitudes are totally subjective. No one has a hypodermic syringe full of emotions or feelings, pleasant or unpleasant, with which to inject others. Therefore, every emotion a person experiences is self-created, and it follows that he or she is the only one who can discreate it. There is, however, a positive side to this. If people are totally responsible for creating their own feelings, they are also capable of eliminating any unwanted feelings, provided they know how to do so.
Let me ask you a practical question. Let's just take me for a moment. Let's say that I feel that I'm stuck in making my radio program reach a greater audience, and I feel frustrated behind that.
Okay, now let me say this to you. Prime feeling is frustration, is it?
I would say frustration.
All right, now I've already demonstrated to you that when you thought of love, you got a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And when you thought of anger, you got a mental picture.
Right.
Okay? Righto, now close your eyes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Just think what the word frustration means. Frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get some kind of a mental picture. Got a picture?
I did. Actually, I got two in rapid succession.
When you think of frustration, I want a picture. What picture first came up? And when you think of frustration, what picture sits there in your mind's eye?
Well, the first picture that came up was a sense of being almost like in quicksand.
Yeah, now I'm not interested in feelings. I just want to know what the image is. What picture are you looking at? Look, you've got a picture, right?
Yes, I did.
Now focus on that picture.
Okay.
And it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's no limit how big it can get. And the size is governed by the amount of negativity involved in that frustration. Is it getting bigger now?
Yes, actually.
Good. Well, just keep watching it until it stops growing. And I don't care how big it gets. It can get as big as the universe. But when it stops growing, tell me.
I think it's stopped now.
Good. So how big does it seem to you now?
Oh, it seems rather like an ocean. It seems rather large.
Okay. All right. Now, how small, in comparison, does it make you feel?
Well, I feel almost like a dot on that ocean.
All right. Now, we're going to reverse the roles. You're going to be the one who feels big, and the image is going to get smaller. In fact, it'll disappear. Now, keep all your attention on that image you've got there. Do nothing with it. Just focus on it. Okay. Keep your attention on it. Just watch it. Is it getting smaller now?
Yes.
Well, keep watching it. Keep watching it, and it'll continue to shrink, and eventually it's either going to fade away or disappear. Do nothing with it. Just look at it. Just watch it. And when it's gone completely, tell me.
It's gone now.
Gone completely?
All I see now is basically myself.
Okay, but that image that you've got there, you can no longer see it. Correct?
That is, it's more of a memory than the image.
Great. Now open your eyes, please.
Okay.
When you think about your radio program, you're still frustrated still?
I feel more bright and optimistic about it.
That's right. The frustration is gone. Now let me tell you this. You will never, ever feel frustrated again. Never. And I'll tell you why I can be so adamant about that. Because there are two laws to survival, which I have penned. The one is very logical, but it's never been penned before. And the first law of survival states this. No one will ever knowingly instigate anything which they know to be non-survival for them. The second law of survival is this. This is new. You are only affected by what you are unaware of. And in plain language, if you know about it, it doesn't affect you. Now, this is the point. That frustration identity which you had is now gone. You now know about it, so it no longer affects you. And not only that, you'll never ever create it again. It's history.
Well, then I owe you a debt of gratitude, because that has been a weight in the back of my mind in the work that I do. So I think, thank you.
It's gone now, hasn't it?
It has. And I want the listeners to understand here that this is the first time I've ever spoken with Mr. John Mace, and this technique that he just shared with us is something apparently that you can do on any emotion that is an upset to you. Am I correct in that, John?
Correction. Now, you cannot do this on yourself. I spent 40, 50 years researching, and I cannot do it on myself because of the laws of survival. But I have trained many, many people around the world, and there are many people in America now who are using this.
Then I stand corrected. But my point is that anyone who goes to a practitioner can experience this almost instantaneous switch in perception.
Precisely. Thing is, when people come to me or other practitioners, they go through a routine to clean out all their emotional problems. So they are totally free of emotional problems.
And John, how long does a process like that normally take?
About an hour. I had a lady today, this afternoon. She came to me. She was referred to me by a doctor with a depression, and she left me. She was here for 45 minutes. And not only was she here for me for depression, we also cleared up a few body problems, because that's another area of my research. Many, many physical problems are actually psychosomatic, caused by deeply buried emotional problems, and when you locate the emotional problems and release them, the physical problem vanishes.
Well, it would sound to me then as though this work trained many people around the world. Your work is mostly in Australia, is that correct?
Oh, well, I mean, local people, yes, but I've got clients in America. A leading American psychologist called Dr. Fred Gallo has been trained by me, and he's busily using this.
Yes, I know Fred Gallo's work with in the energy psychology tapping field.
Well, he was the person who actually coined the expression energy psychology.
That's what I understand.
That is the truth of the matter. I have trained him on this method, and he is using it, and very, very happy to do so.
So that means that practitioners of the Mace Method can help people over the telephone, it sounds like.
Oh, yes, but I have far more clientele on phone or Skype than I do sitting in my consulting room. You see, the old story, the tyranny of distance is a thing of the past.
Exactly.
All I have to do is pick up the phone and talk to a practitioner. That's all I've got to do.
And why don't you let us know, our listeners know your website, John? So
yes, my website is www.macemethod.com.au.
And it's important to get that .au because if you don't put that in, if you put in John Mace or Mace Method in a Google search, you'll find John Mace.
Oh, yes. If you put in John Mace, Mace Method or something, just go to the Google search for Mace Method and you'll...
Exactly.
You'll come on. But the thing to go to my website itself, or I'll just repeat it for you to my own website. It is what I've just said. I will repeat it for you. It's www.macemethod.com.au, all in lowercase.
And Mace is spelled M-A-C-E.
Correct, yes.
Mace Method.
John's clients are especially happy to learn that they do not have to talk about or discuss their lives, and definitely do not have to talk about any harrowing experiences that are adversely affecting them. In fact, they are discouraged from doing so. John mentions in this light a lady, the victim of sexual abuse, who after many fruitless visits to conventional counselors for emotional relief, came to a Mace Method practitioner and burst into tears when told that she did not have to relate or relive the experience again. Compulsive behavior is just one condition that the Mace Method addresses effectively. According to John Mace, all forms of compulsive behavior, including eating disorders, resolve quite quickly. The difference between these disorders and addictions, although both compulsive, is that the former is a physical activity, whereas the latter involves the ingestion of foreign substances. Additionally, drug, alcohol, and tobacco addictions are considered to be psychosomatic and treated as such. Clinical experience with clients has proven on countless occasions that all addiction problems have an emotional background. Locate and remove the negative identities associated with the problem, and the addiction vanishes. They are treated as such because addictions are invariably associated with body problems, but it is the addiction which causes the body problem and not the other way around. We can ignore the data coming out of the field of energy psychology, but we do so at our own peril. One of the greatest challenges we face today is how to mitigate the effect of stress, and we are fortunate that the fields of psychology and healing are intersecting. Here John and I resume our discussion on his work, even as he continues to demonstrate his method by taking events from my life and zapping them with his process. Let me say this about the sessions. I found his work amazingly effective and fast. Since John has worked with me, I've been monitoring my behavior, and I feel that many of the issues addressed in the session appear to have been resolved. Now, obviously, I need to allow a sufficient amount of time to pass before I can make any definitive claims. But I can say that, as with some work I did with EMDR, or bilateral stimulation of the brain, the sense I have is that, in fact, long-standing issues that were addressed appear to have far less power over me. My sense is that I am less reactive and more able to simply respond to situations that would normally push my buttons. The net result of this is that I feel calmer and more centered and better able and willing to enjoy myself. Energy psychology is being used to deal with any number of psychological and physical conditions, often with extraordinary results. There is growing evidence that the intersecting of psychology and medicine with quantum concepts will change forever how we think about wellness as well as how we address it. In this regard, Mace Method practitioners around the world are at the forefront of this personal empowerment movement. Let's go back to more of the interview and the Mace Method session.
John, what conditions have you treated successfully with your process?
Any emotional problem. I'll treat a person with an addiction to smoking in an hour. A person with an alcoholic problem in an hour. Just standard and routine. Okay. But you need to understand, John, this research is so far ahead of present time it's not funny. You understand?
Yes. You're dealing with something that we deal with in what we call the Simone zone, and that is the idea that all ideas, especially negative ideas, have an image and an emotion attached to them. And obviously we have different approaches, but yours is absolutely fascinating, and I'm just curious to know, you just explained the technique of shrinking and expanding. Do you have other tools like that in your practice?
You don't need any other tools. The only tool which we need is to locate the negative identities. You see, I discovered negative identities many, many years ago. And then, see, that is what I call the bottom line. There's nothing underneath the negative identity. That is the bottom line in the cause of things. And for many, many years, all I've done is researching ways of finding them, digging them out. And that's what it's an empirical research, finding ways to dig out these negative identities.
Which is, of course, going back to talk therapy, Freud, Jung, that sort of thing.
No, I didn't get the first part.
I'm saying work of Sigmund Freud and Jung, and in other words, talk therapy has been a way of trying to find those negative identities.
You're quite right. You see, there are many therapies there that talk about the concept, but haven't really cottoned onto what is involved. See, look, Freud was obsessed with sex.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing. Freud could be fixed in 1 hour, and you've got to get rid of all his obsession with sex.
Right.
You see, I go through a set procedure. As a matter of fact, what I can do for you, if you're interested, I could actually give you a session on the phone.
I would absolutely welcome that.
All right. Have you got time to do it now?
Absolutely. Let's do it right now.
All right. So we'll start. I'll explain to you what I say to any client. Okay?
Yes.
And what I say to a client is what I just said to you a minute ago, that it is generally accepted we're composed of 3 elements, mind, body, and spirit. There's a 4th element, the identity. The negative identity holds all the things about you don't like. And these negative identities come out of upsetting events. Now, when I talk about upsets, I'm not interested in what happened in the upset. But this work of mine is totally devoid of self-disclosure. I'm not at all interested in what happened in the upset.
Okay.
Good. Now, an upset is anything that's happened to you that you didn't like. Anything which happened to you would not experience by choice.
Okay.
Now, you're sitting there with your eyes closed now, okay?
Yes.
Has your attention gone to some upsetting event in your life, a singular upsetting event?
I see it in my mind right now.
Yeah, but I mean, your attention is, never mind, but you can think about an upsetting event, right?
Oh, yes.
Good. Now, where did this event occur? At work, at school, at home, what?
I was on a bus.
On a bus. Now, with your eyes closed, now keep your eyes closed, keep your attention on that upsetting event on the bus.
Yes.
Now, go to the very worst moment for you in that upset. You're now in the very worst moment. Stay in that worst moment. In the worst moment, everything has stopped. You're in suspended animation. So if you're looking at a stuck TV picture. Now stay there, frozen in time. Are you standing or sitting or what?
I believe I'm sitting.
Now, no believing. You know where you are frozen. You're sitting, are you?
Yes.
Good. Now, as you sit there, frozen in time, what is the unwanted feeling which has assailed you? Feeling what?
Anger.
Right. Now, you're overcome with anger. But now you have turned on yourself, you've shot yourself in the foot, and you've made a negative, knee-jerk reaction about you, which is total rubbish. But what is it? I am what as a person?
I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed.
Now what is it, embarrassed or ashamed?
Embarrassed.
I am embarrassed. Well, now open your eyes, please.
Yes.
What this tells me is this. You drop into anger fairly easily, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's coming from that negative identity, the angry identity which we're talking about. But not only that, you don't kind of get embarrassed unnecessarily, right?
Absolutely correct.
They are the two most negative elements in your life. They come out of that upset. And that's why you went to that upset. Out of all the upsets you've had in your life, you went to that one.
Yes.
Because deep down, intuitively, you know that is the one that needs addressing the most. And that's why you've gone there. Now, we're going to get rid of these two unwanted elements, as we did before. Now, close your eyes, please.
Okay.
Good. I am embarrassed. I am embarrassed. Got a picture of something? I don't care what it is.
Yes, I do.
Good, we'll focus on it. And when it stops growing, tell me. It can end up as big as a universe, but just watch it, and when it stops growing, tell me.
It stopped growing.
Good. Now, if it stopped growing, it can only get smaller. Continue to focus on it, and watch it fade away or shrink. When it's gone completely, tell me.
Gone now.
Good. Now, if the image is gone, that identity is gone. Now, let's have a look at this other element in here. Anger. Just think what the word anger means. Anger, and you get another picture of something. Another image?
I do.
Good. Now, focus on that one. Watch it grow to its full size. When it stops growing, tell me.
Okay.
Good. Now, if the images stop growing, it can only get smaller. Keep focusing on it, and like the other one, it's going to disappear. But when it's gone completely, tell me.
It's gone now.
Good. Now, if the image is gone, that identity is gone. Open your eyes. Let me explain to you. You have did that, not me. I didn't do it at all. I just guided you. You did it. Okay?
Yes.
Now, close your eyes again, please.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now, go back to that incident sitting in the bus. And as you sit there now, how do you now feel?
I'm actually happy, laughing.
Good. The angry identity is gone and the embarrassed identity is gone, and once again, you will never, ever feel irrationally angry or embarrassed again. In fact, you'll never, ever get angry again.
I am absolutely delighted, and I will, and of course, I'm going to monitor my normal knee-jerk reaction to things.
Well, let me. Okay, before we go any further, there's a lot more to do if you want to do it.
Of course.
Good. Now, as you sit there right now, how do you now feel?
I think that energy psychology is a lifeline to a humanity drowning in the shallow end of the pool. I use this analogy because so many of our so-called problems are not life-threatening, deep end of the pool variety. But nevertheless, if we don't have the right information, the fear of drowning is the same, regardless of the actual depth of the water. I like to add, try everything on it being any issues that you feel are impinging the quality of your life. In this world of synchronicity, I firmly believe that everything is interconnected. There are no mistakes. If we look for solutions, we will find them. If we truly need and want change, it is possible. Now, stay with us for the last segment with John Mace, creator of the Mace Method, and his session with me. author of Don't Think of an Elephant and creator of the Mace Method. My initial session with John Mace concludes in this final segment. I suggest that people review this audio file many times and that everyone read Don't Think of an Elephant to get a better grasp of John's philosophy and important work. I agree with John completely that feelings are a, if not the key to creating wellness. I suspect feelings are also the operating factor in intuition, the sense of knowingness in our gut that we so frequently ignore, often to our detriment. In speaking with John before the interview began, I thought it would be most informative if John gave a real-time demonstration of his process. That way everyone could hear for himself or herself the simple-to-understand principles behind his work while hearing the passion with which he delivers his message.
You're sitting there in that room somewhere and you're feeling calm and centered. But outside that room, in the big wide world, there's people, groups, organizations and things which have the potential to upset you. So what we've got to do now is make sure that when you go out in that big wide world, you stay calm and centered. You will not be the effect of them. So I just want to mention to you now, my mission statement is this: to assist people to be in control of their lives and live their own dreams. You have made a major step towards taking full control of your own life. Now, the degree to which these negative identities adversely affect you is the degree you are not in control of your life.
Agreed.
And the more you get rid of, the more in control of your life you are. Now, I talked about the outside world. Now, anything out there, you have a relationship with it. You relate to it, right?
Yes.
Good. So we're going to get in now an area which I call relationship handling, relationship problems. Now, in life, there are four basic areas in which one can have a relationship. The primary one is with another individual, an individual person. Then you can have a relationship with a group of people, these large organizations and things. Now, within my work, I break them down to two, for simplicity's sake. They're a who or a what. Now, the who refers to an individual, and the what refers to groups and organizations and things. Okay? Good. Now, in any relationship, there are two ways that you can behave. You can react, which is irrational and always makes things worse, or you can respond, which is rational and always right for you. Now, the response is coming from you, the reaction is coming from one of these negative identities.
Understood.
So what we've got to do now is dig out these negative identities that adversely affect some of your relationships.
Okay.
To dig them out is very, very easy, because they're buried in your psyche, but you intuitively know where they are and what they are. So I'm going to ask you a very simple question, which I want a snap answer. And by a snap answer, I want to ask you a question. Now, I'm not trying to trick you, but what is 2 times 2?
4.
Do you have to think about it?
A little bit, not much.
Well, okay. What's your father's first name?
Oscar.
Do you have to think about it?
Not really. I mean,
No,
it was I knew that.
Now, that's the point. It's coming from your inherent knowingness. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and you'll get a snap answer, and whatever the answer is doesn't matter. It's a catalyst which will lead to 2 areas of your life that need addressing. Now, close your eyes, please.
They're closed.
Here is the question. In your entire life, who or what has most adversely affected you? And what was the snap answer?
My stepfather.
Stepfather. Now, what type of person is negative? What is it?
Violent.
Violent. He's violent. Is that the word that describes him best? Violent?
Yes.
Good. Now, this is the point. Anybody whom you consider to be violent, you would react to. The magic stepfather, he's just a catalyst, which is located as element within you, that you react instead of responding to a violent person. See, nobody likes violent people.
Right.
But you will react instead of responding, and that's the problem. Now, the reaction is coming from a negative identity buried in your psyche that takes over and causes this reaction. Now, I put your attention on this identity that reacts to violence. Is that an image of something?
Of myself?
Okay, what the image is doesn't matter. Just look at that image you've got there now and let it grow to its full size. When it stops growing, tell me.
Okay, it stopped growing.
Good, so how big does it seem now?
How big does it seem?
Yeah.
Gigantic.
All right, now we're going to reverse the roles again. Just keep watching that image, just look at it, do nothing with it, just watch it, and it will get smaller and smaller. And it's going to disappear like the others, and when it's gone completely, tell me.
It is gone completely.
Great. You are handling this extremely well. Let me tell you that. Very good. It's a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
Now, the other side of the coin. With your eyes still closed, the word violent. Violent. Just think what violent means, you get another picture of something. Got an image?
Yes.
Good. Now focus on that image, whatever it is. And when it stops growing, tell me.
That one has stopped growing.
Stop growing. It can only get smaller. Keep watching it. Focus on it. When it's gone completely like the others, tell me.
It seems to have faded away to nothing.
If you can't see it, it's gone. It's out of your universe. Open your eyes, please. Now, just think about your stepfather. He's violent. How do you feel about him now?
Let's think.
Well, how do you feel about him?
I know. I'm trying to bring up a feeling about him.
Look, there's nothing to feel. Those identities are now out of your universe. Do you see much of your stepfather?
No, I don't.
Okay. If you did see him, your relationship has changed anyhow. Because your attitude towards him has changed, your vibes have changed, and therefore he responds to your vibes. And that whole relationship has changed.
I wanted to say, when you said to me, how do you feel about him, I didn't have I had to think about it because there was no feeling. All I could come up with was disinterest, and then you clarified why that was so.
That's the point, you see. All those negative energies have gone, and you can look at him for what he is without being the effect of him.
I was pleasantly surprised to note that John's work contains a strong component of what I call the imagination. In particular, the exercise of expanding and collapsing the negative images struck me as an especially potent use of the imagination. I mention this to you because of my personal belief that correct use of the imagination is another operating principle to achieve wellness. A precept I gleaned from Einstein's declaration, imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions, along with other similar thoughts he voiced on the subject of imagination. Thanks again to John Mace for talking with us today about his fascinating work. Be sure to join us next Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, and thank you for joining us on our shared journey into wellness.